Sunset is closing out the day. Sunset of a life is the closing out of the life.
Hello everyone, welcome to Happily Ever Reality. Today we are talking about Season 19, Episode 25 of Sister Wives. It is titled, He Heals the Brokenhearted. Before I go any further, I do want to point out the clip that I put in at the beginning of the video about the sunset. That is Kody talking about watching the sunset after digging Garrison's grave. I'm bringing it up because I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, and I'm not going to put the clip in again, but I want you guys to sort of keep it in mind. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about this episode. We start out in Wyoming seeing Maddie, Caleb, Janelle, Christine, David, that crew, that part of the family, all going fishing. Janelle makes it clear that she told everyone the plan to go. That includes Mary, Kody, and Robyn. But when we see that part of the show, they are not there. At least I didn't see them anywhere. They're not in the photos. They're not. If they're at that fishing spot, they are far, far away. Like, I didn't see them. And I think that was deliberate. I think they made sure to point out that those people weren't there. Now, when it comes to Mary, there was a part of me that thought, we don't know that she got there early. She's alone. She may have showed up. She may have shown up right before the service. We don't know that she got to Wyoming early. So I wasn't too caught up on that, but we know that Kody and Robyn were there. They could have shown up and been a part of this. This was a great time for Kody to be in the presence of his children and maybe not work on things, maybe just be there and be decent and sort of open the door to working on things in the future. But he's not there. Now, there was another part of me that thought maybe some of the kids were glad he didn't show up. I don't know. But they're not there. It's worth pointing out because they made sure to mention it on the show. I bring this up because there is a confessional where Janelle says that even though some relationships have mended, none of those relationships have to do with Kody. The relationships that have improved are the ones between siblings. So if there were siblings that weren't getting along well, they have put their differences aside. But none of that has to do with Kody. So maybe he made the right choice. Maybe if he would have shown up, it would have just shifted the focus away from having this nice experience as a family and shifted it more to his relationships with the kids and how they feel about him. Maybe it was good he wasn't there. Maybe he would have ruined it. But there was just a part of me that thought, what a missed opportunity to be present and maybe open the door to working on things. After this, it switches from the fishing over to Kody, Robyn, and their kids. They are visiting the family ranch. And during this part of the show, we are subjected to seeing Kody and Robyn on a horse together. And we also have to hear Robyn say this.
I had never seen him on a horse, and I was just like, whoa. He was so knew what he was doing, so in control. It's a lot of fun. It's rare, it's yummy.
I can't decide if I hate the fact that I had to hear that or I'm thrilled because now I have a new bit of audio that I can put in videos at inappropriate times. There's a part of me that's like, this could be useful, but another part of me just hopes that, you keep some stuff to yourself. Anyway, after that, we hear from Kody, and he talks about how kind and gracious it was for Janelle to let him take Garrison to Wyoming. And I think it's true. It was very kind and gracious of her because I don't know if I would have that in me. I think I would have been like, no, thank you. You were kind of a failure at the end, and I will just take him myself, or I will let his brothers take him. I don't know if in that moment I would be that kind and gracious. I don't know. I can't say for sure that I would. So yeah, she was being very, very nice. I'm going to add a clip in here of Kody talking about that.
And she was kind and gracious. And she said, I think that'd be really sweet. And I'm glad that she saw it that way because I need this.
My first thought when I heard him say that was, I bet he does. He needs this because if I were him, if I were in his shoes, I would feel a tremendous amount of guilt because he could have worked on his relationships with his sons years ago. They wanted that. Robyn even confronted him in that one episode, the one where they were standing outside of their house in the snow. It was kind of awkward, but she was telling him to work on his relationships with his children. And he was like, I just want to work on the one with you, because the one he has with Robyn doesn't make him have to confront the areas that he has failed. He doesn't want to do the stuff that's difficult. So he just completely pushed his kids to the side. And now one of his kids is gone and it's too late. So while I do not blame anyone for what happened with Garrison, I do think Kody should feel a certain way about the fact that his son passed away and he wasn't working on the relationship with him. A little later in this episode, we find out that Kody had asked and gotten permission to dig Garrison's grave. There's a part of me that feels bad for thinking this, but this is just how I feel. I found it to be a bit performative. I didn't feel like it was authentic emotion. Kody is a showman. We know that about him. He likes to have attention. He's a storyteller. And I part of me felt like that was really what it was about. And then I kind of question if I'm being too critical of him. But when he talked about it, there was just something about the way he explained it that made me feel like it wasn't sincere. It was about putting on a show and doing the things he thought he was supposed to do. I'm going to put the clip in here of the moment where I sort of questioned Kody and why he was doing this.
Yeah, this is like an old West country cemetery, and I'm going to dig the grave.
I don't know. There's just something about the way he said that. It made me feel like it's more about telling the story that he did this for his son instead of really just wanting to do it. You guys can let me know if you even understand what I'm saying or if you agree with that. The reason I mentioned earlier in this video the sunset clip that I started with, I felt the same way during that part. He was saying that he wanted to watch the sunset and he'd set up chairs there for himself and then his brother and brother-in-law, and they're sitting there. And just the way he talked about it, it felt like he had prepared a speech to go along with the moment. And you know, that's something Kody, it feels like Kody does that. I've questioned before when he says certain things, like, did he prepare before he showed up to do the confessional? Had he practiced that line in the mirror? It's the same feeling during that part of the show. It felt like he was supposed to do that. And maybe years and years of being on reality TV has conditioned him to do that. Maybe he's like, I have to have something for the show. And so he's always preparing for a storyline or a good scene or quote. I don't know. Kody likes attention, and it just makes me question some of the stuff he does, even in these more serious moments. Putting aside that, like what his motives were, I do think it was really nice that his brother and brother-in-law were there. I can't imagine digging my child's grave. And, man, now I'm going to cry. Okay, I can't imagine digging my child's grave and then doing it alone. I would have just, I couldn't do it. Someone would have to come get me because I'd probably have some sort of breakdown in the process. So I just thought it was really good that he had people there with him. Again, even though I'm critical of some of the stuff Kody does, it was still his son. He's still a dad. The whole thing is so, so sad. But they dig the spot for them to put the urn, and then they sit out there and they watch the sunset. After this, we see the graveside service. The family had requested that the cameras keep their distance. We find out that Caleb had made an urn shaped like a Viking ship. It was amazing. We also see Peyton and Hunter put items into the ground with the urn. Peyton put in a dog tag and Hunter put in a hat. It was just the most heartbreaking thing. I cried the entire time. I'm sure you guys did as well. But at the end of this, we see Kody stop everyone before they walk away, and he tells them about a dream that he has where Garrison had came to him. I just want to know what you guys thought of that. I have opinions about it, but I feel guilty being critical of Kody when he's just lost his son. But did he have to do that? Could he have saved that for talking to his favorite wife? He should have told her about that. Maybe he thought it was going to comfort everyone, but just knowing how Kody is, it didn't. I think if it had been anyone else, like if it had been Hunter or Logan or Janelle, I would have been like, you know what? Okay, they wanted to tell everyone this. They really thought Garrison was coming to them and communicating with them, but it was because it was Kody. It was annoying. And I feel guilty for feeling that way. Now, I want to talk about the moment where Janelle hands the urn to Kody, then Kody puts it in the ground. I'm going to put a clip where Janelle is talking about that right here.
Handing him to Kody. And even though Kody and I have our big differences, in that moment, we were just parents.
I think it was really good that Janelle said that, and I hope I explained this right. But when we're watching the show as viewers, we have all the things that Kody has done in the past kind of in a list, right? We have all the reasons we don't like Kody. We think he's a bad dad. And so we're watching this and we're hearing about the fact that Kody is driving Garrison to Wyoming. I even said in the last video, I sort of wish anyone else had did it. Like, why didn't the brothers do it? Why didn't Janelle? Anyone else could have drove him to Wyoming. Why Kody? But this is a reminder in this moment, they're putting all of those feelings aside. She's just focusing on the fact that that is Garrison's dad. Just like she's the mom, he's the dad. They both have the right to be a part of this. Unless Garrison specifically said, if something happens to me, don't let dad be a part of it, they're going to include Kody. They don't dislike him so much, they're not going to allow him to attend the funeral, right? It's just a reminder that we are sitting at home with our list of reasons we don't like him, the list of reasons we don't want him around, and in this situation. And I have a few more things I'm going to add about this video and Kody's behavior that I didn't like. But in real life, for this family, they're putting those feelings aside because this moment is bigger than the things that have happened in the past. There are a few more things I want to talk about, but for the most part, that's the recap of the episode. The first thing I want to talk about is Maddie. There's a part of this at the end where Maddie is talking to Leon. And I just want to say, before I even talk about that, I enjoyed seeing the kids that aren't normally on the show. I realize they don't want to be on there, and it makes sense. I wouldn't want to be on there either, but it was nice to see them again. The part of this where Maddie is talking to Leon is when she brings up her relationship with Kody. So I'm going to put the clip in here.
Like, so with Kody, it's like...
So I stopped it really fast. I don't know if I haven't been paying attention until now, but she doesn't call him dad anymore. I don't know if I missed it in other episodes, but he has lost the privilege of being called dad when it comes to Maddie.
I'm angry at the way things happened, but I can control how I react and how I reciprocate.
I just threw this in here because there was a part of me that was wondering if Kody was brought up at all or if they just avoided talking about it the whole time, which I can understand if they did that. If it was like, we're not going to focus on that, we're going to focus on Garrison. But it looks like there were some conversations that were had by the children. She does go on a little further and say that she wishes she could talk to Robyn's kids and apologize to them for anything that she might have done to them. But honestly, do you guys think she has a reason to apologize? I would be surprised to find out if Maddie did something so awful when she was growing up that it resulted in Robyn's kids not talking to the other children. I think Kody and Robyn were the problem. I think there might have been stuff that just naturally happens in blended families, but I don't think Maddie has some big reason to apologize. There was one other part of the show that stood out to me, and it was a moment where Kody said something during a confessional that just, it's a classic Kody moment, but it just wasn't the time to say something like this. Here is the clip I'm talking about.
I remember telling my boys, my old boys, when we were at the funeral home, I was like, they're taking over. They're running the show, and I'm like, stop, please.
So I paused it here because I immediately was like, this is not going anywhere good. He is telling the other boys to stop. So he's telling the boys that were close to Garrison, the ones that were texting him that night to check on him, the ones that he communicated with, that he had a good relationship with. I'm assuming Gabriel was there, who actually went to the house and found him. He's telling those people that actually were looking out for Garrison, loving him, supporting him, to stop. Honestly, they probably could have planned it all without him if they really wanted to. He doesn't realize that if, from my perspective, if they had felt it in their hearts, they could have said, why are you here? We have no relationship with you. They could have done that. But they put that aside, like Janelle said she did earlier. In that moment, they were parents. In that moment, they were including him as Garrison's father. But they didn't have to. So I just think it takes a lot of nerve to tell them to stop.
I was the first one that held him. His mother is in that category, of course. But let me do this. This is my duty, my job. Let me finish.
So Kody likes to show up when he can be in control of something, when it creates a good story for him, when he's the star of the show. But when it's stuff happening that's more difficult, when it makes him face his own failures, or it's just a lot of work that he can't, reap the rewards of, he doesn't show up, even if it's for his kids. That's what my takeaway from this is. And the boys that were in there planning this funeral and the graveside service and all of that, they were the ones that were showing up for Garrison at the end. And maybe they needed it to be a certain way. Maybe they had something they needed to do for their brother to have closure. But what Kody focuses on is his own need. And I can't figure out if it's a real emotional need or if it's a good storyline. Looking back at this episode and the last one, I think TLC handled it really well. I think it was good. It was spread out into 2 episodes. I think it would have been a lot to pack all of that into one. So I think it was a good idea to make it multiple. But I thought that it was done well. It was done in a way that was tasteful. But that is it, you guys. That is my recap. You can let me know what you thought about this episode down in the comments. If you haven't already, I hope you'll click like and subscribe and come back to Happily Ever Reality.